Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the luncheon of the 2023 Yushan Forum. In the morning, we had fruitful discussions on building economic resilience, and now it's time for us to sit back, relax, and enjoy each other's company. So to kick off, first we would like to welcome the host of the luncheon, His Excellency Chung-kwang, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, R.O.C. Taiwan, to give us the remarks. Please welcome Deputy Minister Tien. And distinguished guests, please take your seat. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Michael Shaw and Her Honorable Ambassador Kelly Craft, the former United States Permanent Representative to the United Nations, and Excellencies from the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my immense pleasure to host this Yushan Forum Luncheon and introduce Her Honorable Ambassador Craft. And on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I would like to thank you all again for participating as we contemplate jointly charting a new blueprint for Asian development. I think for the last 3 years, all over the world, we all encountered the unprecedented challenges. It started by the COVID-19 pandemic. Millions of people's lives have lost. Taiwan is one of the countries being hit very seriously. However, even during that period of time, Taiwan was short of supply. We be able to donate 50 million more of face masks and some other, thank you, some other medical supplies to 88 countries around the world. I remember during that period of time, because of short of supply, in our country, the expert taught us how to reuse the face mask. They wanted us to put the used face mask into the rice cooker. But don't put the ice together, don't put the rice together. You just use the heat to sanitize the face masks and then to reuse them. That's the time we donate 50 million face masks. However, that kind of action really created we call the force for good. And then later on, we've been reciprocated, receiving some other medical supply to Taiwan. So that kind of a cycle being created. And by doing that, Taiwan's image in the world been elevated. And then followed by the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. Taiwan, again, is one of the first countries. We went in, we supplied about 700 tons of relief goods for the refugees. And the people in Taiwan, we donated more than 50-some million US dollars and also sent it to the refugee people who needed it. Of course, later on, the natural disasters, the earthquake in Turkey, and the Libya flooding, Taiwan never missed the opportunity trying to help. So Taiwan is no longer a democracy. Taiwan is no longer a country respect human rights and freedom. Taiwan, R.O.C, is a humanitarian supplier. So ladies and gentlemen, especially for those foreign dignitaries, you have come to Taiwan at an opportune time. You will be able to acquire the first-hand information about the resilience of our democracy, about the vibrant activities of our economy, and the determination of our people. Thank you very much. Now, let me bring back my speech a little bit to talk about the relations between Taiwan, R.O.C, and the United States. The Republic of China, Taiwan, and the United States, we have a long shared the values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. And based upon these shared values, we continue to strengthen our partnership in security, economy, trade relations, and people-to-people exchanges. Over the years, the United States has reaffirmed that its commitment to supporting Taiwan is rock solid and accelerated the pace of arms sales. In joint statement with the allies and partners, the United States has repeatedly emphasized the importance of maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and expressed support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. And Taiwan and the United States, we have greatly expanded economic and trade cooperation. This is evidenced by our bilateral trade performances. I think I'm not going to mention the figure again because our President Tsai, she has already mentioned all the figures of the relations between our two sides of the trade. However, I think as the first agreement under the US-Taiwan Initiative 21st Century Trade is signed into law, we look to further deepen our economic partnership, and President Tsai Ing-wen has urged support for bilateral tax agreement, which would eliminate double taxation and increase cross-border investment and trade. And Taiwan and the United States have become the global partners. The global cooperation and the training framework, which has entered its 9th year, has evolved into the important platform for cooperation among Taiwan, the United States, Japan, Australia, and other like-minded partners. The war in Ukraine has taught Taiwan that we need to stay strong and resilient. Communist China continues to flex its military might to coerce and intimidate Taiwan's democracy by sending its warplanes and the vessels to cross the median lines of the Taiwan Strait almost on a daily basis. And that the people of Taiwan, we are committed to maintaining the status quo under President Tsai Ing-wen. Taiwan has exercised calm and responsibly safeguarded the peaceful and the stable development of the cross-strait relations. We in Taiwan face daunting challenges posed by Beijing, persistent about changing the rule-based international order. We cite these abuses not to provoke China, but to safeguard our way of life and maintain the status quo. As President Tsai Ing-wen said yesterday in her speech to the nation, she said, maintaining status quo as the largest common denominator for all sides is the critical key to ensuring peace. Ladies and gentlemen, Taiwan is committed to working with the United States and like-minded countries to promote regional peace and prosperity. We are grateful for your support to sustain our efforts in crafting a development model for Asia and building a better tomorrow for the world. Our special guest and keynote speaker, Excellency, come on. Look at that. That's 2 years ago. We met online. I'm so happy I'll be able to see you in person. I will say it again, you look charminger in person. Well, Her Excellency Ambassador Kelly Craft, she served during the Trump administration as United States Permanent Representative to the United Nations. from 2019 to 2021. She previously served as the U.S. ambassador to Canada from 2017 to 2019, and she was the first woman to hold that position. Ambassador Croft is a graduate of University of Kentucky in Lexington and remain active in local politics, civic, and philanthropic causes. Ambassador Croft has been a dear friend and a staunch advocate for Taiwan. In 2020, Ambassador Croft had an unprecedented meeting with the head of our foreign mission in New York, discussing ways that the United States can help Taiwan become more engaged with the United Nations. In early 2021, Ambassador Croft met with the President Tsai by video conference, praising Taiwan's contribution to democracy, global health, and humanitarian assistance. We are so glad to have Ambassador Croft. And before Ambassador Croft takes the stage, I have prepared a small token of appreciation for her achievements and contribution to our bilateral relations. I prepared that called Old Bear, which is designed by the Tourism Administration, Ministry of Transportation and Communication. Old Bear is the mascot which represents Taiwan's friendliness and sense of optimism for the future. Ambassador Croft, please join me for the photo with the bear. The big one.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Deputy Minister Tien, and good afternoon to all of the distinguished guests. What an honor to be here today. It is a pleasure to join each of you at the Yushan Forum and to celebrate the friendship between our nations. At this moment, there's no place I'd rather be than right here. In many ways, this is a formal talk. However, in my formal official capacity, things happened to me which resulted in a very personal attachment to this country. Our connection is beyond the professional to the personal. In short, the reason I stand with Taiwan is connected to the very things that make me an American. I've had a distinct relationship with Taiwan more than most US ambassadors, an inside track on how strong American foreign policy is on Taiwan. I'm not a stranger. I'm not a detached observer. I'm your friend. During my service as U.S. Ambassador to Taiwan, as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, I worked tirelessly every day to fight the systemic discrimination against Taiwan and to help raise Taiwan's profile in the corrupt United Nations system. I did this as a matter of policy, U.S. policy. I did this as a matter of principle. But I also did it as a matter of friendship. And our friendship is rooted in shared beliefs. We believe that freedom is the birthright of every human being on earth. We believe that the desire for freedom is universal, written by our Creator into the hearts of men, women, and child, from Kentucky to Kaohsiung. We believe that democratic capitalism is the best system of government because it has lifted millions out of poverty and given the most people the best chance to live lives of purpose and opportunity. We believe in standing with our democratic allies because the unity of free nations is the best way to secure peace. And we believe that we must fight for a world that is growing in freedom, because free nations do not wage war of aggression, invade their neighbors, or seek to withdraw borders by force of arms. As an American, these values are deeply ingrained in my very soul, and I know they're ingrained in yours as well. This is why I stand here today. I stood at the United Nations, firm with Taiwan, and will continue as long as I have breath in me, because the fates of America and Taiwan are intertwined. When your freedom is under threat, our freedom is under threat. When your integrity is challenged, the integrity of the entire democratic order is challenged. And when peace in the Taiwan-Strait is at risk, the peace of the entire world is at risk. And so it is the duty of those who love democracy and who care about the international order to support Taiwan. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. We meet today at a time of rising tensions across the world. All of us have been shocked by the horrific events that have taken place this weekend in Israel, where Iranian-backed terrorists massacred hundreds of innocent civilians. The atrocities we have witnessed in recent days, grandmothers murdered in their homes, girls raped, young children taken hostage, kids gunned down at a music festival, tear at the very fabric of our hearts. More than 900 Israelis have been murdered, including 40 babies. Let me repeat that. The terrorist massacred 40 babies in cold blood. That kind of terror has no place in our world. The people who did this must face justice. The regime that fomented this violence must pay a steep price. And I know that everyone in this room stands with the Israeli people as they defend their citizens, their sovereignty, and their freedom against the forces of terror. The events of the past few days should remind us that when evil exists in our world, and what happens when evil is not confronted with strength and determination by the world's free nations, we need to wake up to what is happening around us. In just the past year, Russia has started a war in Europe. Iran has started a war in the Middle East. And here in the Taiwan Strait, Beijing is breaching Taiwan's defense zone and menacing the citizens of this peaceful nation. Such aggression cannot be allowed to stand, and I will not allow this to stand. But while the events of the past year are growing, I have come to Taipei with a message of hope, because terrorists and tyrants appear to be on the march. They are destined to fail, because the power of terror and autocracy is no match for the power of freedom and democracy. And history has shown that once roused, the world's free nations always do what is necessary to confront evil and secure our liberty. China's provocations here in the Taiwan Strait are intended to project strength. In fact, they do the opposite. Confident nations do not behave this way. This raises an important question. Why does a large, powerful nation like China seem to be so threatened by the existence of this island, this country of democracy? The answer is simple. Because ever since you embraced universal values of freedom and democracy, Taiwan's very existence poses an existential threat to the Communist Chinese Party. Beijing wants the world to believe that freedom and Chinese culture are incompatible, that Chinese people value order over liberty and prosperity over democracy. Well, all you have to do is spend 5 minutes in Taiwan and see with your very own eyes that this is not true. You are showing the world that when freedom and Chinese culture mix, they produce the kind of vibrant, dynamic, prosperous society that we see here today. You are showing the world that the desire for freedom is universal, that people of all races, religions, and culture want to live in the light of liberty. We saw that universal desire for freedom in the 13.7 million Taiwanese citizens who voted in the 2020 presidential elections, the most in any Taiwanese election since you embraced democracy nearly 3 decades ago. Fully 75% of your citizens went to the polls to choose their leaders. They did this in the midst of the worst pandemic in over a century and intimidation from China. You showed enormous courage, and your commitment to democracy is an inspiration to the world. There has not been a transfer of power on the mainland since the Chinese Communist Party seized power by force in 1948. Taiwan, however, has presided over 3 peaceful transfers of power from one party to another since the year 2000. Think about what that means. An entire generation of young Taiwanese citizens have grown up with no memory of military dictatorship. They have never lived under government not chosen by the Taiwanese people in free nations. That generation is the hope of Taiwan because all they've ever known is freedom and democracy, and there is no better guarantor of freedom than one's own people. This is precisely why Communist China is threatened by you, because they know that the desire for freedom is universal. That desire for freedom is why the protesters in Tiananmen Square erected a replica of the Statue of Liberty. It's the reason that why the democracy movement in Hong Kong waved the American flag and sang the Star-Spangled Banner. It is the reason why the Chinese communists crushed the Tiananmen Square protests, stamped out democracy in Hong Kong, and want to bring Taiwan under totalitarian rule. Because they know deep down that Chinese people want the same things as people everywhere: the right to choose their leaders, to chart their own destinies, and to build a better life for their families. And every day, every single day that a free Taiwan is allowed to exist, people on the mainland look at you and say, why can't we have the same things here? They see that just 100 miles away in Taiwan, there are Chinese people living in freedom and prosperity. 2 Chinese societies with the same people, the same language, the same culture, the same natural resources, yet one is glowing with the light of liberty, innovation, and enterprise, while the other is enveloped with a very darkness of human misery. And the contrast will grow even more stark as the 21st century unfolds. The deal that Chinese leaders impose on their people is that the Chinese Communist Party will deliver prosperity in exchange for total political control. Well, in the not too distant future, the CCP will no longer be able to deliver on its end of the bargain. And once they can no longer deliver prosperity, then their grip on power will begin to falter. And as the Chinese people grow more frustrated with their sluggish economy and decrepit political system, there, within the sight of the mainland, will be your free, successful, thriving Chinese society that contains everything they wish for and do not have. So as long as you exist, there is a chance that people on the mainland can one day seize the same opportunities for themselves. That is why we need to preserve and protect Taiwan's democracy and why China seeks to destroy it. Every day, the American people benefit from the freedom and innovation spirit of the Taiwanese people. Today, thanks to international sanctions over its unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, Russia is experiencing a severe chip shortage. So it has turned to Communist Chinese Party for its semiconductors. and it has found that 40% of those have failed. They simply don't work because China can't produce advanced semiconductors. By contrast, Taiwan's vibrant free market economy produces more than 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors. Your chips don't fail because your chips are produced by free people working in a free society. And freedom is reliable, while tyranny is not. Your citizens have so much to offer, and Americans benefit from your innovative spirit every time we start our cars, turn on our TVs, power up our laptops, and look at our cell phones. We literally carry a piece of free Taiwan in our pockets everywhere we go. Many in my country point out that it is in America's interest to defend Taiwan because we cannot allow China to cut off our access to advanced semiconductors. And that is true. But we also have an interest in making sure that communist China cannot extinguish the point of freedom and innovation that has made Taiwan a global source of advanced semiconductors in the first place. Because a free Taiwan makes the world a better place. It improves not only the lives of its own people, it improves the lives of the American people and the lives of people in every corner of the earth. Taiwan's innovation fuels American innovation. Taiwan's prosperity fuels American prosperity. And Taiwan's freedom fuels a desire for freedom in the hearts of people across the world. So it is in Americans' vital interest to help you defend your freedom and those who seek to isolate and intimidate you. So here's what we must do. We must stand up to China's efforts to exclude Taiwan from international organizations, not just for the good of Taiwan, but for the good of the world. Taiwan has so much to offer the world. Your country is a leader in global health, advanced manufacturing, governance, entrepreneurship, women's empowerment, and cybersecurity, just to name a few. For example, the UN, just as recent as September, held its summit on the Sustainable Development Goals. Taiwan has important experience to share in these areas. You have the lowest poverty rate in the Asia Pacific. You have some of the best educational outcomes in the world. You are a global leader in advanced technology, renewable energy, public health, responsible governance, and building sustainable cities. There is not literally one single area where Taiwan could not make a meaningful contribution to helping the United Nations reach its sustainable goals. Taiwan's exclusion makes no sense to me. That is why before the summit, the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed said, quote, "Excluding Taiwan holds back the goals," adding that every person matters, whether it's Taiwan or otherwise. Her statement was courageous and correct, but China has refused Taiwan to participate. As China continues to isolate Taiwan from existing international relations, it is seeking to build alternative international structures, like the recent BRICS summit. If China is going to rally like-minded nations, then the United States must rally the like-minded democracies. And that's what we're starting to do. The United States has deepened our military cooperation with Australia, with the new AUKUS pact that has helped Australia develop nuclear submarine capabilities. We have elevated the quadrilateral security dialogue among the United States, Australia, India, and Japan to an annual leader-level meeting. And we, the US, has just hosted a groundbreaking summit at Camp David with Japan and South Korea, the first ever trilateral summit of those three nations. These are positive steps, but we can and we must do more. We need to increase our defense spending and make certain we have the right American capabilities in the region to protect Taiwan. We need to make sure that Taiwan has the weapons it needs to defend itself, expanding both the quantity and quality of the arms we sell to the courageous men and women of your armed forces. We must replace our longtime policy of strategic ambiguity with a policy of strategic clarity, making clear to Beijing that if it tries to invade Taiwan, the United States will come to its defense. And we must help Ukraine defeat Russia's unlawful aggression. Let's be very clear about this today. The fates of Ukraine and Taiwan are inseparably linked. If the West allows Putin to conquer Ukraine, we will send a signal of weakness that would embolden the enemies of freedom from the Middle East to East Asia, and the risk of war here in Taiwan would skyrocket. Xi Jinping would conclude that if America is not willing to spend money to defend Ukraine, then we will not risk American lives to defend Taiwan. We must not, and I give you my word, we will not allow that to happen. The lesson of history is clear. Weakness is provocative. To secure peace in Europe and here in Pacific, America must not falter in freedom's defense. So we must help the Ukrainian people defend their liberty. We will help the Ukrainian people thrive out the unjust aggressors. We will help the Ukrainian people restore their sovereignty. We will help the Ukrainian people prevail. But in the end, that will ultimately ensure that Taiwan survives and thrives and prevails over all those who seek its destruction is the spirit of its people. And the participation of the younger generation of Taiwanese will lead this country to even greater heights of prosperity. And if I may speak to the young Taiwanese at this very moment, you are the future of Taiwan. You are showing the world what free people can achieve. Your very existence is a threat to the Chinese Communist Party. Because in the long run, our desire is for all Chinese people to have what you have here in Taiwan. We want freedom, opportunity, and prosperity to take root, not just here in Taipei, but from Hong Kong to Harbin and beyond. Yes, the burden is heavy. It must be difficult to build your lives under this menacing totalitarian power. But please know that building a free, thriving, democratic Taiwan, you are casting a light where that dark shadow looms. And we know that in the long run, darkness fears the light and ultimately is powerless to extinguish it. It may take decades, even generations, but when you persevere, then one day all Chinese people will be free. But for that to happen, we must create conditions of peace and security that will allow your genuine genius to shine through. We must first protect this brilliant island of freedom here in Taiwan. We must stand up to Taiwan and stand for a free future of Taiwan. Taiwan is its own country. Its citizens have their own destiny. It is not for the narrow throat of a communist dictatorship to think or claim otherwise. And it is certainly not for the democracies of the world, all of them, in my opinion, to let the threats and menace of Taiwan come to full dark bloom through their indifference, through their complacency, or through their pure diplomatic timidity. This was a perspective I articulated in reference to Taiwan at the United Nations, and it is the perspective I still hold, but with much greater force and greater immediate. This great experiment in Taiwanese democracy will persist. Taiwan will continue to grow. It will continue to thrive. It will continue to prosper. And as so long as I have a voice, America will always stand by your side. I'm going to quote Confucius, the first sage. To see the right and not to do so is cowardice. I know what is right. You know what is right. Not to do so is indeed cowardice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kraft, for the message of hope. And once again, thank you so much for reiterating U.S. commitment to Taiwan's freedom, democracy, and security. Thank you. Please return to your seat. Thank you so much for the wonderful remarks. Another round of applause to you, Ambassador Kraft. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to invite Deputy Minister Tien to propose a toast. Please raise your glass. Okay, cheers. So, ladies and gentlemen, the luncheon will now begin. Bon appetit. And the afternoon session will start at 2:30. So, see you later. Thank you.